When you think of the wealthiest athletes on the planet, you probably picture the players holding the Ballon d'Or. We naturally assume that dominating the pitch directly translates to dominating the bank account. Every transfer window, we see headlines about generational talents like Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo signing record-breaking contracts. The hype makes it feel like they must sit at the absolute peak of the sports wealth hierarchy. But this graphic tells a different story. When we separate the most famous players in the world from the actual richest players in the world, the names don't overlap. Messi and Ronaldo have estimated net worths hovering between $1 and $1.2 billion. However, they are dwarfed by Faiq Bolkiah at $20 billion and Mathieu Flamini at over $13 billion. This presents a fascinating dilemma. How players who are either retired or barely recognized by the average fan manage to accumulate billions more than the most marketed global icons in history? The answer comes down to wealth strategy. Extreme wealth in sports is built by deliberately shifting away from active labor into specific business structures that function independently of a player's performance. Mastering the sport makes a player a millionaire. Mastering capital allocation makes them a billionaire. This chart categorizes the richest footballers by how they make money. The vertical axis tracks total net worth. The horizontal axis tracks wealth source, from active salary to passive equity. The first model is the pure outlier. Sitting alone in the top right corner with a $20 billion net worth is Faiq Bolkiah. Bolkiah's wealth is a result of inheritance. He is the nephew of the Sultan of Brunei, placing him in direct line for a portion of a royal family fortune estimated at $200 billion. Being an heir provides a massive, guaranteed fortune. It requires zero commercial sports relevance and bypasses the need for athletic merit. In fact, Bolkiah spent years in youth academies for clubs like Southampton, Leicester, and Chelsea. He never established elite leverage on the pitch, but his family ties ensured his fortune remained intact regardless. Inheritance guarantees financial security, but because it cannot be replicated or earned through strategy, we have to look at the players who actually built their wealth from the ground up. That brings us to Model 2, clustered in the lower left quadrant. These are the mega endorsers, players like Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar, and Haaland. This group relies on a specific formula. They use on-pitch talent to command massive active salaries from their clubs. Cristiano Ronaldo represents the peak of this active salary negotiation. His deal with Al-Nassr pays him roughly $3.42 million every week. We see the next generation following this path. Erling Haaland leveraged his scoring consistency at Red Bull Salzburg and Borussia Dortmund into a $38 million annual contract at Manchester City. To push their net worths higher, these players add global licensing and brand ambassadorship deals to their base salaries, signing with companies like Nike, Puma, or Adidas. Lionel Messi crossed the billion-dollar career earnings mark through this structure. Instead of purchasing companies, he signs linear endorsement contracts to wear specific logos. The limitation here is that this wealth generation is entirely linear and tied to a fragile physical asset. The money flows only as long as the player avoids severe injury and stays relevant on the pitch. Crossing the billion-dollar threshold using this strategy requires a player to maintain elite physical performance well into their late 30s. The mega endorser path is lucrative, but its growth potential is capped. The moment physical performance drops, the primary wealth engine stalls. To move past those physical limitations, we look at Model 3, the equity builders. Without a royal inheritance, this is the only mathematical path to a multi-billion-dollar net worth. Take Mathieu Flamini. He was a solid midfielder for Arsenal, but he is currently the second richest footballer on earth, with an estimated net worth of $13.4 billion. He didn't make that money from his playing salary. Flamini co-founded a biochemical company in 2010. Because he holds a 60% ownership stake, his wealth compounds independently of his football career. David Beckham pioneered this transition. Instead of taking straight cash for endorsements later in his career, he structured deals to acquire equity stakes. He negotiated the right to purchase an MLS expansion team at a fixed price. Today, Inter Miami is valued at over $1 billion, transforming Beckham from a paid ambassador into a sports enterprise owner. Now, players like Kylian Mbappé are aggressively applying this equity-first model while still in their athletic prime. Mbappe operates a holding company called Coalition Capital. Through this vehicle, he holds a majority stake in the French football club SM Caen, a position in the digital asset company Sarar, and an investor position in a health insurance startup recently valued at $5 billion. Structurally, Mbappe keeps his agency and advisory roles strictly internal. By concentrating decision-making within a small circle, he prevents external intermediaries from draining his wealth with commission fees. This model carries financial risk and requires complex corporate structuring. It demands a level of business focus that can distract a player from active competition. But the math checks out. Equity builders decouple net worth from physical longevity, enabling their capital to compound long after they retire. When you look at the raw data at the top of the sports wealth hierarchy, a massive active salary works best when viewed as seed capital rather than the ultimate goal. This chart visualizes the transition happening in the business of sports, the move away from the endorser model toward the co-builder model. Endorsers take on low business risk, but their earning longevity is short. Co-builders absorb the short-term business risk of funding startups and holding companies, but in exchange, they unlock long-term financial longevity. That brings us to the upside. The endorser is limited by corporate marketing budgets. The equity owner unlocks exponential growth because their assets scale based on market valuation, not a fixed weekly wage. This maps directly to anyone generating high active income, whether you are an athlete, a creator, or a highly paid professional. High earners must look past simple brand ambassadorship. The goal is to take the cash generated by your skills today and trade it for enterprise value you own and can scale tomorrow. Founding a holding company allows for the kind of compound growth that outlasts even the largest playing contracts.